Well, the next day, something else happened. And I got, again, to make this very short, I got a phone call that was a very difficult phone call. And I slammed the phone down and I felt anger and I felt frustrated and I felt like this whole situation was unfair and I didn't understand it. And I didn't want to feel my feelings or think my thoughts. So I wanted to distract myself. I was very good at distracting myself. So I went to the sink and I'm going to wash the dishes. But I lived alone in a cabin in the woods, Ken, so there weren't many dishes to wash. There was like a spoon, a bowl, and a cup. So I thought, all right, I had a stereo in the cabin with a good stereo with good speakers. I thought I'm going to turn the music up really loud to distract. I lived in the middle of nowhere, so I wouldn't bother neighbors. I'm going to turn the music up really loud to distract myself. And I took about a step towards the stereo and I had a physical feeling. I actually physically felt, the best way I can describe it is like a jolt of electricity hit my stomach. I physically felt this jolt of electricity. My mouth opened and I felt something physically pop out of it. Didn't see anything, but physically felt like something popped out of my mouth. And I fell to my knees, Ken, and I began to weep. I wept and wept and wept for almost 3 hours. And when I came up off the floor after almost 3 hours of weeping, where at one point I thought I'm having a nervous breakdown because I can't stop crying. I'm, almost 39 years old, alone in a cabin in the woods, and I can't stop crying. I think I'm having a nervous breakdown. But the more I wept, it was like weight was being lifted off of me with all the weeping. And at one point I came up off the floor, and I've described this many times. The best way I can describe it is it was like coming out from underwater. Like when you're a kid and you want to swim the length of the hotel pool, and the first time you do it, it's this big success, but you've been underwater a long time and you come up and you go, I came up off the floor after weeping and I've got snot and tears everywhere. There's an actual puddle on the floor. And I come up off of the floor and I opened my mouth and took that big breath, like coming out from underwater. I went, and the words that came out of my mouth, Ken, kind of surprised me. They were, Jesus, if you're as real as you felt in the woods yesterday, I don't want to do this by myself anymore. I want your help. And he came flooding into me, Ken. And for the last 20 years of walking with him and talking with him and getting to know him, he has always been there for me. His presence, his wisdom, his caring, his guidance. I said yes to him that day in my cabin after that second encounter, and nothing's ever been the same. I'm not saying there's never been a test, a trial, or a challenge, but that sense of love and acceptance, and that someone has me and I have someone that I can count on who's for me and with me. And I serve him. He doesn't serve me, but I have this sense of it being there and caring in everything. And there's guidance and wisdom in everything. It's completely different from anything I experienced in the New Age, the human potential movement, Eastern mysticism, drugs, any of it, because it's lasted and it's permanent and it's real.